Who is General Ibrahim Babangida to you? Do you see him as the evil genius, or do you see him from the June 12th annulment perspective? We're made to understand that's supposed to be the freest and fairest election we've had in those countries, but it was annulled by his government. How do you see him? Well, General Ibrahim Babangida was able to put most of these things into the book he just released, My Journey of Service. Now, we're going to look at that book, taking into perspective some salient points, and then we'll come and talk about it. The book has generated a lot of hypes, generated a lot of concern, generated a lot of discourse across different persons and different people because of some major points. I want to look at some of the points that has been noted in that book. General Ibrahim Babangida Autobiography, My Journey of Service, offers a detailed account of his personal and professional life, along with his perspective on Nigeria's turbulent political history. One of the key points he emphasized in his memoir in his stance on the 1966 coup, where he highlighted that it was not an Igbo coup, a narrative that has been deeply embedded in Nigerian political discourse. The memoir not only provides a glimpse into Babangida's role in Nigeria's military and political arena, but also offers insight into the challenges of leadership, governance, and national unity. So we're looking at some of the salient points from that book. 1. The 1966 coup, a rejection of ethnic narrative. Babangida books challenges the commonly held belief that the 1966 coup led by Major Chukwuma Kaduna Nzogu was an Igbo coup, aimed at the domination of the Nigerian political system by the Igbo ethnic group. He firmly rejects this narrative, stating that the coup was not a sectional or ethnic one, but rather a military coup driven by frustration with the political leadership of the First Republic. He points that the coup plotters were primarily military officers who were dissatisfied with the corruption and inefficiency of the civilian government, which was led by the Prime Minister then, Sir Abubakar Tafawa Balewa, and other politicians from the northern, western, and eastern regions. According to Babangida, the coup was an attempt by the military to restore order in a country teetering on the brink of disintegration, rather than a power grab by the Igbo ethnic group. In his analysis, the coup was motivated by the military sense of duty to save Nigeria from political instability, mismanagement, and the endemic corruption that had overtaken the civilian government. He argues that the ethnic and regional interpretation of the coup only served to deepen divisions in an already fragile nation. Babangida's argument serves as a call for Nigerians to understand their history from a more objective standpoint, free from the ethnic bias and misinformation. Another thing that is being noted in that book is the role of the military in Nigerian politics. Babangida's autobiography also shed light on his view about the role of the military in Nigerian politics. As a key player in the military regime that took over after the 1985 coup, Babangida's perspective is essential in understanding the interplay between the military and the civilian government in Nigeria. Babangida justifies military intervention in politics by discussing the inefficiency of civilian governments in Nigeria, which, according to him, often fail to deliver on their promises and left the country in political chaos. Babangida argues that the military had to step in at various points in Nigeria's history, not because of a thirst for power, but due to the incapacity of civilian governments to maintain stability and unity. He believes that military intervention in some cases was necessary to protect the country from collapse. His justification for this view is apparent when he discusses the state of the Nigerian economy, the 1983 coup, and the aftermath of the annulled June 12, 1993 election, which he played a crucial part in. Babangida points the fact that the military has a stabilizing force that should bring Nigeria back on track, even though the consequences of their rule were mixed. Also, on the annulment of the 1993 presidential election, perhaps one of the most controversial decisions in Babangida's career as a military leader was the annulment of the 1993 presidential election, which was widely believed to have been won by Chief Moshood Abiola. Babangida provides his perspective on this event. citing the need for national security and the avoidance of ethnic conflict as the key reasons behind the annulment. He insists that although the election was credible, the political tension between different ethnic and regional groups made it impossible for the country to accept the results peacefully. The annulment of the election remains a dark chapter in Nigerians' history, and Babangida Autobiography offers his defense of the decision. According to him, there were fears that allowing Abiola, an ethnic Yoruba, to win the presidency would provoke unrest in other parts of Nigeria, especially in the northern regions, where political elites fear the dominance of the Yoruba people. Despite Babangida's explanation, many Nigerians view the annulment as a betrayal of economic principle and continues to be a major point of contention in his legacy. Another lesson is lessons in leadership and national unity. Babangida's autobiography underscores the importance of leadership in shaping a country's destiny. Throughout his account, he emphasizes the need for visionary leadership that transcends ethnic and regional boundaries. One of the key lessons he imparts is that effective leadership requires not just military power prowess, but a deep understanding of the complexities of Nigeria's diverse population. He calls for leaders to put the nations first, prioritizing its unity and development over narrow ethnic or regional interests. Babangida also stresses the importance of patience and long-term vision in governance. He admits that his tenure was marred by mistake, but he remains firm in his belief that the decisions made during his time in power were in the best interest of the country, even if they were not always well received. He calls on future leaders to be more accountable and to avoid the pitfalls of corruption and poor governance, both of which have plagued Nigeria throughout its history. Another lesson is reconciliation and moving forward. A major theme in the autobiography, My Journey of Service, is the call for national reconciliation and healing. Babangida acknowledges the deep ethnic and regional divisions that have hindered Nigeria's progress, and he stresses the importance of moving beyond these divisions. He advocates for a united Nigeria where all ethnic groups can coexist peacefully and work towards common goals, particularly economic development and national stability. In summary, Babangida's autobiography, My Journey of Service, provides an insight and sometimes controversial view of Nigeria's military and political history. His reflection on the 1966 coup, the role of the military in Nigerian politics, the annulment of the 1993 election, and the lessons he learned from his experiences offer a valuable perspective on Nigerians' ongoing struggles with leadership, governance, and national unity. While his actions have been the subject of criticism, his autobiography invites Nigerians to reflect on their history, question ethnic and regional biases, and work towards a more unified and prosperous nation. That's just a summary of the autobiography. But you see, the autobiography tried to answer some questions and left other questions unanswered. One of the major questions the autobiography answered is that of the 1966 coup being termed an Igbo coup. Now, Babangida is making us understand that it is not an Igbo coup because we have a lot of Northerners and Westerners that engineered the coup. And even Nzogu was not the primary leader of that coup. So that will help us change the narrative, change our orientation, and help us see differently that the pogrom that happened because of the misinformation that was sold out by both the British media and the media houses then led to the civil war. So you see, it was a wrong misrepresentation. So we should go out there and let people know that it was not an Igbo coup. Another thing that he tried to address is the annulment of the June 12, 1993 election that Moshood Abiola won. In his book, he made us understand that if he had sworn in Abiola, that Abiola would have been murdered by some of his close friends. Well, we wouldn't know that, we wouldn't know the information he got, but then that chapter shaped a lot of things that happened in the country. Even the empire then, Professor Ebisi Nwosu, that recently passed on, will be buried very soon, was not mentioned in that book. A lot of questions were not answered in that book. The questions of Dele Giwa, what happened to Dele Giwa, the questions of a lot of life that were lost. The issue of Mustafa was not mentioned in that book. The issue of Sergeant Rogers and a lot of them were not mentioned in that book. So you see, there are a lot of things that will need to be addressed. Another thing that is important is this. Abacha is not here to answer most of the things that Babangida wrote. If Abacha were to be alive, maybe we would have gotten a different perspective. But Gowon is alive. So wait to see Gowon's memo also. Remember, Ojukwu tried to address this and tried to make us understand what really transpired and led to the civil war. This is not different because he tried to portray that point that it is not an Igbo coup. Well, I will enjoin each and every one of us. Go and read that book. You're going to learn a lot about the history of our great country, Nigeria. We're going to see you in our next video.